At this point, I would like to invite everybody to sit back and enjoy your glass of wine as we move on to the focus of today's presentation, which is, of course, David Atkinson, the CEO and Director of Earthworks Industries, Inc. And David Atkinson founded Earthworks and is responsible for the financial and strategic planning and requirements of both Earthworks and its wholly owned U.S. subsidiary, Cortina Integrated Waste Management, Inc. And Mr. Atkinson was instrumental in the successful negotiation of a 25-year lease, renewable for 25 years, for the Cortina project. And he has spent several years working within the regulatory framework for development of the First Nations in North America and has a wealth of experience in that regard. And so at this point, David, I'd like to invite you to come on and begin your portion of the presentation.
Hi guys, I'm just getting there now. Can you hear me all right, Jordan?
Yep, you're coming through loud and clear.
That's great. Thanks. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and I hope everyone's managing through these crazy COVID times. I'd like to also thank Neil and his team for this production. It's been really, really something, and they've been very patient with me. For today's presentation, I will be discussing what we're doing at Earthworks, the significant accomplishments and milestones we've achieved to date at Cortina, and the road we have followed to get here, putting Earthworks in a very unique and strong position. I'll talk a bit about the exciting junction we're at, how Cortina came to be, and our plan for moving forward, and why I believe Earthworks is an excellent investment opportunity, not only for its upside, but for the chance to be part of the necessary step we all need to take to help clean up the world. I would first like to share a little background on the company, the initial focus we had when the company was founded, and how it led us to Cortina. We had two primary areas of interest when Earthworks was founded. The environment was one, and power was the other. The technology boom at that time had led to a very disposable society and an appetite for electricity and the power to produce it. The model at Cortina was simple. We looked at all the components of a waste handling operation that a major source would want to see, and that is what we did. Our objective at Cortina is to build a unique facility that not only offers the latest technologies, but to also cater to the specific needs of the region and community as well. We chose Cortina for a number of reasons, but most importantly, we wanted to model based on California, the highest standards for the environment anywhere in the world, and emerging countries simply adopt California standards for environmental regulations. We went a few steps further. While some thought tribal land might streamline our process, it was quite the opposite. The bar was even higher. We embraced working with First Nations specifically because of their attachment to the land and environment. They consider themselves the caretakers of Mother Earth, and that is the standard we envision. We were busy saving trees in the Carmana Valley, wetlands for Ducks Unlimited, and rivers and streams for salmon enhancement. At Cortina, we not only went through one of the most exhaustive environmental reviews, but also took California codes and regulations for solid waste and married them to tribal law. We created tribal codes and regulations that met either California standards or federal standards, whichever were stricter. The codes and regulations are enforced by a tribal environmental agency that was specifically created to oversee and enforce them. Because Cortina is federal, all approvals have not only been vetted through Region 9 of the EPA, but through Washington as well, giving them potential application in all regions of the U.S. because they are precedent setting. We've also gotten to know a significant number of people and companies in the industry after all these years and maintain very close associations. Jordan? Well, locating this type of a facility was inevitable. The statistics outlined on this page speak for themselves. No one imagined the disasters brought about by wildfires in California that used up significant future disposal capacity, nor did we see the offshore markets for recyclables being shut down in such dramatic fashion as in recent years. It reminds me of the pushback when Michigan told Toronto they could no longer ship waste across the border. We are now seeing that on an even broader scale, and will all now have to deal with our own problems when it comes to waste. Technology will catch up, but as we all know, that will take time. And I find that last particular statistic about the number of years remaining on the counties with the primary populations. Jordan? We find it interesting, as do most people, when they realize that California, the environmental stewards of the world, create some of the highest waste per capita. And as a consequence of being so efficient at recycling, now need a place to, we need to find a place for it. Cortina is ideally located and in an isolated location just off Interstate 5. It is also located in close proximity to California Highway 20 that connects to the coast. Truck traffic is much more friendly on the I-5 corridor than Interstate 80 that runs between Sacramento and San Francisco, which can add hours to a truck trip. As for size, Cortina would be classified as a medium-sized operation and is well suited for a region that continues to grow. Because Cortina will be a new landfill, we agreed to update all inputs to satisfy regulatory agencies and ensure it will set the standard from not only a federal and tribal perspective, but California as well. Jordan? We have worked with all the federal agencies when it comes to regulatory and environmental review. From early collaboration with the Department of Interior to the US EPA and Army Corps of Engineers, it has been precedent-setting and no simple task. Jordan? The local county landfill closed years ago, and their waste is shipped elsewhere, so Cortina would offer significant savings and a reduced environmental impact. There would also be local road improvements, as well as job creation during construction, and long-term permanent jobs for tribal members and other community members. We also feel that it's important and want to keep in touch with local environmental interests. Over the last several years, we've assembled our management team and are extremely well represented in all the key areas related to what we are doing at Cortina, with specific skill sets in environmental waste management, tribal, federal, and state regulations, and the financial savvy to build our business. David Russell handles the financial side for us and runs a very tight ship as our CFO. David Andrews' background and experience from his run-of-river hydro development days included early and detailed involvement of First Nations that literally opened the door to that industry and opportunities in British Columbia. His knowledge of renewable energy is equally valued as we move forward. Mr. Cal Waraniak owned and operated major farming operations in Saskatchewan before moving to Vancouver Island and building one of the most successful organics operations, which he also subsequently sold. His experience gives us the ability to look to premium compost and organics operations as we proceed. Rick Powell, our most recent addition, was brought in to bring this ship to port. He has permitted, designed, and run numerous operations in California and will be a key bridge to the industry in the region. Jordan? The EPA review initiated in May included all updated submissions prepared by SCS engineers, our project engineers. We do not see any significant capital requirements other than technical review and overhead until such time as the water monitoring is initiated or potential additional wells are required. Construction finance is expected to be 20% equity, 80% debt, and having a bankable offtake agreement at that time. Jordan? This is an important slide as it gives you a very clear picture of the various components of the industry. As you can see, once completed, Cortina will provide a broad spectrum of waste handling services, creating the benchmark for waste handling sites in the US. Our proposed material recovery facility would fit in where the transfer and recycling station is located in the journey. This facility would grow as we become an option to local haulers. The compost operation will be simultaneous to landfill operation. Jordan? Modern day landfills are engineering wonders and nothing like the landfills of the past that are now local golf courses, playgrounds, and soccer fields. They greet you as you arrive in Vancouver at the Port Mann Bridge and the Eagle Nest Golf Course flying into Toronto. They are part of the community. They were part of the community, and people don't know they were there. We have learned a lot that we cannot continue to pollute our oceans or the air we breathe. Technology is improving, and we are getting there, but in the meantime, we have got to do the best thing for the environment. The opportunity we see at this time is very similar to the run of river era in BC, where environmentally friendly, sustainable power offered First Nations a window to help contribute to critical power demands, and solar and wind elsewhere. We are coming into a similar time with our waste problems, and a similar window of opportunity over the next few years will exist. This is the model we have developed at Cortina, and is all about availability of land and where we might locate these facilities. We want to showcase Cortina and demonstrate the facility of the future. We also want to invite other companies to work with us and join us at Cortina. Jordan? Cortina's disposal system has been designed in 2 stages. The Cell 1 area, located immediately as you enter the site, will be developed first and has a capacity of approximately 1 million tons. It will allow for immediate cash flows and require minimal capital for startup. The Cell 2 infrastructure will come from Cell 1 revenue and be developed as Cell 1 is filled. While our lease allows for up to 1,500 tons per day, we are targeting 600 tons per day in year 1 and will scale up to our 1,500 tons as soon as possible. Rates in the collection area of Cortina, Sacramento, San Francisco range between $50 to $150 plus per ton, and in our first year we plan to process close to 200,000 tons. You can do the math and we'll see significant revenue out of the gate and very scalable. Additional revenue streams will come from compost operations as well as the material recovery facility as operations expand. Ancillary revenues will continue to increase as well, with gas production becoming more significant each year. Organic waste treatment such as anaerobic and on-site gas production are operations we may consider franchise arrangements or licensing with proven companies in the space. This will be determined based on CapEx and potential dilution to our shareholders. Jordan? As I've explained in the past, the landfill business is very similar to mining. Ore is a resource. Miners take it out of the ground as efficiently and profitably as possible, and we put waste in the ground with the same idea in mind. The main difference here is our ability to get to revenue is quick and requires a low CapEx when compared to most mines trying to get into production. Think about finding a huge resource and being able to start production within 2 years and with a very low CapEx to do so. We would be a miner's dream. We have taken Cortina from discovery to proven and demonstrated we can build it and everything in between. We have approximately 10 million tons proven and can likely expand that quite significantly over time by recycling and reusing. We can build it, and that is why you need to own this company now, because we are about to let the world know we will. And like a resource development, major players in the industry will take note and can engage in discussions on partnering to take the project into production. Jordan? As you can see, there are approximately 80 million shares currently outstanding, approximately 90 million fully diluted, with the insiders holding a significant position of 20 million plus, 20%. Jordan? We retained Investor Cubed as we believe now is the time to start getting out to our investors and institutions as our next steps stand to create the most value for our shareholders. We believe we have now unlocked potentially one of the best investment opportunities and the chance to potentially realize significant gains and help the environment. It's a win-win, and I'd like to thank you for your time today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David, for taking us through the presentation here. We're now moving on to the Q&A portion of the webinar. So anyone who has a question for David, I know we have a couple that have actually come through already. Feel free to do so in the Q&A section, and we'll try and get through as many of the questions as we can. So David, if you're ready, then we'll launch right in here with some questions for you.
Sure.
All right. So first one I have here is, what further approvals and capital are needed to start construction on the site?
Well, firstly, the current submission before EPA are documents that have been previously approved and have now been updated. EPA is expected to give us an outline on the process moving forward shortly. And you need to understand that it's not a yes or no. They're an administrative agency charged with ensuring that our codes and regulations have been met. And just knowing this process moving forward will allow us to schedule completion of the remaining air, water, and county road permits, which have either been completed or advanced as far as possible. And, you know, we're basically, writing this process for future developments. It's like a blueprint moving forward. Capital requirements will be mostly engineering in nature and overhead until such time, as I mentioned earlier, for the water monitoring and any additional wells. Once initiated, that cost would be somewhere in the area of $250,000 to $300,000 prior to operations. And our construction budget for startup is approximately $20 to $25 million. However, we will have to take a look back and a review of the road improvements.
Gotcha. The second one I have for you here is, can you run down your revenue streams? There's waste first and then recycling. How does that work?
Well, that's a good question. With all the permits in hand, you know, we can actually begin the recycling prior to disposal. So processing wood, concrete, green waste can start with very little site preparation. Generating revenue while the cell 1 is under construction. Buildings for processing and storing recyclable materials can be built as the site develops, and capital is generated through continued operations.
Great. The third one I have here is, as the U.S. is now being limited to recyclable items that they can ship offshore, you know, this is leading to an even larger shortage of landfill and disposals. You know, will regulators be able to have the ability to charge more for tipping fees in this particular situation?
Well, I think there's two things you need to look at under the current situation. You know, number one, any kind of amending of existing solid waste permits is pretty difficult, and almost as difficult as setting a new landfill. You know, there's an unbelievable process that has to be followed and things. And I know Californians in general don't want to see existing landfills expanded without, you know, need be. So there's definitely going to be pressure, without question. But as far as higher tipping fees, I really think that that's always going to be a supply and demand sort of situation. And right now, I think you can pretty much assume that the pricing will continue to be pushed up, and the ability for companies to take advantage of that, I think might take a little longer to expand existing operations and things like that.
Fair enough. Next one we have here is, do you think that the approval process you've undertaken with Cortina puts you in a better position to identify and accelerate new project developments?
There's no question there. Absolutely. You know, this journey that we have been on has been quite the learning experience, and definitely provides our group with the experience and knowledge to identify locations that are going to fit our model for the development moving forward.
Great. Another one coming in here. Can you tell us some more about the current water monitoring that has to occur before the site opens? Provide some more detail about that.
Well, the water monitoring has been approved, and this is just you know, final details on, you know, potentially any additional ones that need to be, you know, might be considered if they are required moving forward. This could be on the existing cell 1 location or on the cell 2 development, and they don't pose any particular issue to us at this time.
Okay, another one coming in here. Are you looking at a GFL to take you out?
Well, I don't, you know, as I said, you know, at the closing of my presentation, I think, you know, as the industry people start to take note and recognize, you know, I think there's going to be significant interest from the industry players, we would expect, and I think that's something that we can look forward to. I know all of the major companies are present in the area.
Great. Another one coming in here is kind of more focused on the rainfall. So how much rainfall occurs per year, and what's the seasonality of the rainfall in the area?
Well, that's a good question, and there is, you know, there is seasonal rains down there, but overall the Sacramento Valley is very arid, and there is not a real long rainy season. It's relatively short, and it's a pretty good location for the development.
It seems like, David, that will do it for us. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us your time and giving us your presentation. It's great to hear about this unique opportunity. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, everyone else.